Does Google's I/O event further the gap between Google's machine learning and the competition's? Jaydan and I share our experience with Android 12's open beta, and do you actually own your Apple product? All of this and more on today's video broadcasted episode of Jaydan and Laramie Talk Tech. My name's Laramie.
And I'm Jaydan.
And welcome. And I did my hair. Not really. I just took a shower. It was that time of the month. So we're trying something a little different. Hopefully, as long as everything goes well with this recording, we will post this on YouTube. And so you can watch it. And
add a new platform.
Yeah, right? Trying to get that monetization eventually.
But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's fun. I already have this set up for my streaming and stuff like that. So we figured, why not? Actually be able to show you guys our face. And I'll be curious, for those of you who don't actually know us, I wonder what you'll think about our faces, because technically they don't know what we look like.
Yeah, they don't know what we look like, unless you stalk us on Instagram.
that is
with our names, it wouldn't be that hard. But
yeah, that's true. So we both have mustaches.
Yep.
And Jaydan is fairer skinned. I'm a little darker skinned. That's about it. So
hopefully we look like what we sound like.
Yeah, hopefully. Or not hopefully.
Maybe, I don't know.
Sometimes I feel like I have a little bit of a girly voice. Anyway, we have a pretty feature-packed episode today, especially with Google I/O and the Apple lawsuit and wrapping up and everything like that. So we're pretty excited to jump in. Yeah. So, Jaydan, why don't you just go ahead and take us through the first?
Yeah, so we can start with the Google I/O recap. Mm-hmm. There was a lot announced, but also not a lot announced.
Yeah. Some predictions that everyone were making that they would announce didn't get announced.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, people were pretty positive that they would see the Pixel 5a and then the Pixel Buds A's. Like they were like, that's going to happen at I/O, and it did not happen.
Yeah.
And then they also it was more of a showcase. I feel like they're sort of making I/O more of a showcase for their software and what they're working on, rather than announcing a bunch of new software features.
Yeah.
They did definitely announce some software features and things that are actually coming. But really, I mean, most of it was, hey, this is this really cool concept that we are working on.
Yeah.
And creepy.
Yeah. It's just like it was a bunch of proof of concepts and really cool. We jokingly in our notes, we have Google I/O recap, and underneath that in subtext, # Google Goosebumps.
Yeah.
This entire segment is just going to be our Google Goosebumps segment.
Pretty much. I mean, the first big one that they showed off was called Lambda. I couldn't tell you what that means. I remembered one of them, but Lambda I do not remember. But anyways, Lambda is it's like a language model. I kind of understand what the acronym is for, but it's a language model, like machine learning framework, I guess. Mm-hmm. So they can put that model onto an object or onto a subject.
Yeah.
And then that subject you can talk to.
Yeah.
So the example they gave was Pluto. That was the first one they gave. So they said, you're talking to Pluto. And it was really weird.
Yeah.
But really, really natural.
Yeah.
Like the conversation was literally like the conversations that you hear Jarvis have with
Tony Stark.
With Tony Stark. Yeah, that's what was happening. Yeah. It was a natural conversation with a robot.
Yeah. Which, I mean, just gets me more upset whenever I ask Google Assistant to do something for me and he sounds like a robot.
Yeah.
I want that.
You want that natural intonation. And there was even like some jokes. Pluto was joking with the person. Yeah. There was play on words and stuff, which they're showing it off because you can just assume this is coming to the Google Assistant. Yeah. Like this is coming to search. It's coming to their actual products. But they need to, show proof of concept first. So,
and it's interesting too because they're starting to silently release some stuff, as we'll get onto later on in the podcast. But there's like there could be just one day where you ask your assistant something and then all of a sudden they're like talking to you. And
yeah.
Actually, I think they might need to announce that one. They might need to announce that one because that could be creepy.
Yeah. People are like, and then they throw their phone away.
Being at home by yourself and you ask the assistant something and then it responds like a person. There was one time that actually kind of happened to me where Google Assistant has a bad habit of listening to you sometimes whenever you don't mean to.
Yeah,
right?
You say something that's similar to Google. Yeah.
And when you have a baby and you say goo goo gaga a lot, stuff like that, like it picked up a lot when our son Joaquin was first born. And it definitely reacted to one of those goo goos once. And like I didn't know, and I just heard a man's voice, and for a split second, I was like,
"What the?"
Diving for the floor. Where's my gun? But yeah, it's really cool tech. We know that Google's capable of this, so it wasn't a huge surprise to me. It was cool to see it in action,
for sure,
and get a little bit more of a look at it since our first real showing of it with was it Duplex?
For a couple years ago. Yeah, it was
2018, Duplex. I think. And it's kind of gone silent since then, since it didn't really look like it was well received. But I think technology has gotten further enough that people
it's out there though.
It's gonna happen. Yeah.
I mean, Duplex, what they showed off 2 years ago, is now in the live product of Google. You can have Google make a reservation for you.
It just doesn't sound nearly as cool as it did in the actual presentation.
When it calls them?
Yeah.
No, it's the one that called me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's the creepy one that called me.
Cool. We're getting closer. Google Goosebumps.
When we first said Google Goosebumps, that story, if you go back on some previous episodes, that's what's calling businesses. So
so it's on its way. But so that's Lambda. And then we also have Mum.
Mum. Multi-modal, I think is what it means. Multi-modal. So they can point this at more than just dialogue, more than just speaking. They can point it at video. They can point it at text search rather than spoken search.
Yeah.
And they had some really cool examples. Like you could point your camera with Google Lens at a couple of hiking boots that you have, and you could say, "Are these good enough for a hike of X mountain?"
Yeah.
And it would know what you really need for that type of hike.
And know the season.
It was like, those look like they can handle mud. Yeah. And it tends to rain on this mountain that you ask about. So
elevations are similar except by this difference in elevation.
And then it said, and also probably bring a raincoat.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
On top of your search, it's being proactive and helping you.
Which I in the past I've forgotten to use Google Lens because it's just it hasn't been really implemented into other phones as deeply. But now having a Pixel, I use it pretty frequently.
Yeah, because it's built into the camera too.
Yeah. And my wife, she works for a marketing firm here in Boise, and so I told her about the implementations of Google Lens into like shopping and stuff like that. And she was able to start figuring that stuff out immediately at her work. And so, I'm helping out my wife. She's the moneymaker, but I help her out with all the tech stuff.
There you go.
But yeah, it's really cool. And Google Lens is super useful. So for those of you Apple nerds, you guys don't really have anything like this, unfortunately.
Yeah, there actually isn't. The only thing that would be sort of machine learning on iPhones is when you point a camera at a document, it like automatically recognizes the document and scans it, which is cool.
Yeah.
And then QR codes, obviously, that's using some form of machine learning built into the camera. But
for those of you who don't have never held a Android phone for the fear of having your arm fall off, Google Lens, you can point your camera at say one of my lovely guitars up on the wall and click and hold on the screen. It'll actually start scanning that photo and it'll present you with what is in that photo. So,
and then if it can't find it, it's as like a super similar product.
Yeah.
Right. So like if it's a unique product that would be kind of hard to find online, then it finds similar products that you actually can buy online, which
like
is cool.
They used an example of seeing a pair of Jordans on the screen that you wanted, like during it was like a basketball game or something like that. And he just held up his phone, he scanned it, and it was able to present him with the shoes, where he could buy them.
Yeah.
He could buy them straight from that pane. I mean, it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
That and the patio furniture, which I felt like was a real life application.
Yeah.
Like, you would really use that.
Yeah, you'd be at your friend's house, and you're like, I don't really want to ask them where they got the patio furniture, but I want this.
Yeah, exactly. It's really cool. It's cool stuff that, and this is going to be a theme that you see in this recap of Google I/O, is that these aren't hardware things, which are not as exciting to the general public, but these are lifestyle things that will genuinely impact your life in
helpful.
A positive way.
Yeah,
it's very helpful. I've already started using Google Lens more this week, just in anticipation for the rollouts of it to be even more useful.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is super cool. I'm super excited about that, and so is Morgan.
I mean, it's their mission statement. They continually, like throughout the presentation, kept saying it, that they want to be a more helpful Google for everyone. That's what they continually keep saying, is like, that's their new mission statement. It used to be, don't be evil. So there was some controversy that they were changing it from don't be evil to something different.
Yeah, that's kind of splitting hairs a little bit,
but they did want to have like a real mission statement of what they're trying to do, and that's what they want to do, is they want to be more helpful for people.
Yeah.
So, and for everyone, and be accessible.
I mean, the post-show videos that they had got me misty-eyed. Not because I'm a dad now. They
were just genuinely
super
like
cool.
real stories that they were showing off. So if you have a chance, just go to I think it's their Made by Google YouTube channel. Yeah. Because they're trying to show off Pixel. But just they're calling real Pixel stories or something like that. Yeah. And they're releasing a few at a time, but they showed most all of them after the keynote, after the Google I/O keynote. And they're pretty cool.
In fact, we spoke about this in the last episode about how Google, like a Pixel phone, was actually able to report that someone had been in an accident, and they actually interviewed that guy in the post.
That's one of the
videos.
stories. Yeah,
it's one of the stories, which is cool. That wasn't even the most impactful story either. It was, what was the one? There was one that I was just like, I texted you, and I was like, okay, well now
it was the one.
Now I'm crying.
It was the dad.
Oh yeah,
who he is deaf. He has cochlear implants, so he can kind of hear, he says, but it's hard for him to hear still because he is deaf. And then they showed off him. He was doing like a duo call with his son. And he's like, that's really still hard for him to read the lips of his son because he can't really hear.
It's not 3D.
Yeah, it's not 3D. Yeah. So then he showed off using live caption on just a normal phone call with his son. And then he said in the middle of the phone call, his son said, "Dad, do you realize that you just called me on the phone for the first time ever?" And the dad realized that he was like, "Yeah, I've never made a phone call to someone because I don't know what they're saying on the other end." I mean, super cool.
It's just an example of how Google is using their software and their machine learning to actually impact people's lives. That wasn't like a proof of concept. That was like, this is something that you can use right now.
Real life, yeah.
I use the live captioning whenever I'm like watching a video and I don't like my son's asleep. I don't want to wake him up. I'll turn on live captioning because on a Pixel, when you click the volume rocker, there's a little button right there to be able to activate live captioning. And it's system wide. So it's not just like if there's a video, it's system wide.
Any audio that's coming out of that Pixel device, it will be captioned in real time. It's also on Chrome now. So like the little media controls up in Chrome, there's a little toggle that says live caption on. So you can like real time see whatever audio would be coming out or is coming out is captioned. Yeah.
I just think that the more that Google's able to push this kind of stuff out, as scary as Alphabet is, I mean, because they are a pretty massive company, That's not in the news very much either. Not as much as like Apple or anything like that. So they're kind of the silent big brother, but they're huge. But they're making a difference in people's lives in this.
Even their maps changes that they announced, like there's small maps changes that they said they're tweaking, trying to save people, or like
accessibility, like with the wheelchairs.
Accessibility
and stuff like
with wheelchairs. They're trying to do some more like route changes so people actually save gas. Even though it might take a little bit longer, it does save you gas on that route, which is a huge impact on the planet.
Yeah,
just and I think, because of a maps technology.
Was it that they were going to do, because they're in certain major cities, they're adding even more detail to the maps, and I think that they said that they were already on route for 50 major cities, right?
Yeah.
And so this is like, it'll be showing like crosswalk sections, it'll be showing lights and all this different stuff, all this information that someone who has like special accessibility needs, like someone in a wheelchair, would be able to see that, oh, this isn't a really accessible route for me with my wheelchair to take. And so, it's just really cool stuff, really small stuff that if you're an Apple user, you should be jealous and you should push to want those things, and you should
Apple should be pushing for more accessibility in their products. Sure.
Which, another big thing about the Google I/O event was that Samsung's partnership with them, which is pretty, it's pretty huge.
Big deal. Yeah.
Typically Samsung, I'll say that Samsung doesn't typically play nice with Google. Like they always kind of want to do their own thing.
They want to consume what Google is offering as far as software and then put their own flair on it and sell it.
Yeah.
They don't really want to like sell Google stuff.
Yeah. Which I don't think that we're going to see them get off of One UI. I think they'll keep that because they want to differentiate themselves between the Pixel line. But I do think we're starting to see that tension kind of dissolve a little bit. And I remember I texted you, Apple should be scared of this partnership.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's
if they're being buddies,
yeah,
it's a problem for Apple.
Yeah. Simply because, and we'll talk about this later in the podcast, you're starting to see companies are just getting on Apple's case about their competition stuff, that they're not willing to work with other companies. So that partnership, I think, speaks volumes, and I think it was timed to come out during this whole period of like uncertainty with Apple.
Yeah, maybe on purpose, maybe not. It's just
I think everything with Google's probably on purpose.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But it's really cool. So Tizen and Wear OS are merging. They were pretty like vague about what
they're just calling it. They didn't even like rebrand it, but they keep calling it Wear and not Wear OS.
Yeah.
So I think the actual platform name going forward will just be Wear.
Which, why not just call it Wear OS? I don't know.
Some places you might still see it Wear OS, but for at least their public stuff and the Google I/O keynotes and stuff, it was Wear.
Yeah. Yeah. So. But I'm excited about that. I currently sport an Active Watch 2. And I love it. Tizen's not very supported in the sense of third-party developers. But I love the watch. It works really well. And so for a partnership like that to happen,
for sure,
it's going to bolster Wear OS too, which we know has been kind of a abysmal state.
Yeah, it's been in this weird limbo spot where there was no hardware, but Google like had software out there.
Yeah.
For developers, and it was in a weird spot. So this is a good sign for Wear OS going forward. Yeah,
I think so too. And then let's see. So Chromebooks. You take that. I don't know much about Chromebooks.
They just were more bragging than anything, but they were saying that Chromebooks last year took the second place spot for the largest desktop operating system in the world, which is a huge deal.
Yeah.
They passed Mac OS, and from what it looks like, they are going to keep growing and close that gap with Windows.
Yeah.
Which is impressive.
Yeah. On a lot of, first of all, we have to acknowledge that this is during a Google keynote which they're always going to.
They're always going to brag about their numbers.
Yeah, and so however they decided to like
frame it,
put those numbers together or whatever to make it sound like that, whether it's like 100% accurate or 50%, whatever, it's still.
So the sources are true. They overtook macOS last year.
Yeah.
But they kind of frame it as like Chrome OS is going to keep growing and overtake Windows is like how they want you to think. But still, Windows is by a significant margin the most popular operating system.
Well, I mean, they've been around for a lot longer, but if you think about how long Chromebook has been around, and I mean, they've been around for a while.
10 years. They had their 10-year anniversary,
which is
just
exciting.
A couple months ago. Yeah.
But Windows has been around a lot longer. But for them to be able to get this close already,
it's a big deal. I mean, it was a perfectly timed new operating system for schools. Yeah. I think honestly, education is what has made Chromebooks grow the way they have. So like it started in schools, and then now you're starting to see other people outside of education. Either those kids are growing up and they're used to Chromebooks, so now they're in college and they're like,
I'm just going to use
I'll just buy a Chromebook. Yeah. You can honestly do most schooling, unless you're a creative, on a Chromebook.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that, so I'm a creative. Jayden's a creative.
Sure.
Like we
have reasons to need Windows and macOS right now.
Yeah, exactly. But for a majority, 90% of my family,
they do not leave the browser.
Yeah, they don't need anything more than a Chromebook, and for significantly less.
Yeah, and Chromebooks run Android apps too, so you still have some Android apps that can fill in some of the gaps that the browser's not.
Yeah.
So
into our next segment, which we're gonna get a little nerdy on you here with some stuff with Hiroshi and his smug tweets. Jayden, I know you were pretty stoked about this and just thought it was hilarious.
Hiroshi is the best tweeter because he's the VP of platform. I might have to be corrected on that, but I'm pretty sure VP of platforms at Google. So he overlooks Android and Chrome OS at just like top level. So his superior is the CEO of Google. That's it.
Yeah.
He likes to tweet these things that are wink, wink, nudge, nudge type of tweets. Constantly, it feels like.
Yeah.
So his one, he said, this was a fun one to watch as I wrap up the week. This is about Google I.O. A busy one for many Googlers. Thanks for all the interest. Folded hands and thanks, Googlers. So he had some emojis in there. And then, what does he say here? So excited about the stuff we announced, and in all caps, the stuff still up our sleeves, and then in parentheses, or in our pockets with the crazy tongue out of mouth emoji.
Yeah.
So he's like very much alluding to that. There's literally something up his sleeve.
Yeah.
And in his pocket.
Yeah.
that. Which like he's using prototypes of like future Google hardware, but he very much is saying there is something up his sleeve, which is a Pixel Watch. Yeah. I mean, you can assume he's wearing a Pixel Watch.
Pixel Watch, and then I would think probably. I mean, do you think he's got a Pixel 6?
He either has the 6 Pro. He probably has the 6 Pro in his pocket because he's a Surface Duo kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like he continually, when the Surface Duo was coming out, he was all about it. He was like, this is the sweetest phone ever, which is ironic because he works for Google, but he is like an Android leader. So an Android phone, he totally can sport. It's probably a 6 Pro in his pocket or a Pixel Fold.
Yeah. Which it's just going to be such a good year for Google. I hope anyway, but I think, I want to say there's going to be a fold,
like
but
the stars are aligning for them.
Yeah.
Maybe not for the fold. That's still kind of an up in the air thing.
Yeah.
But just around their hardware this year.
I would just expect to see a little bit more leaks about a fold if that were.
Maybe the pipeline's different.
Maybe,
yeah. The way that it's being built and everything is totally different from other phones.
But I mean, segue into Pixel 6, I mean, there's been more leaks too with the Pixel 6 and the Pixel 6 Pro specifications coming out, and like battery sizes. I think I saw like 5,000 milliamp hour battery,
which is insane
for the Pro, right? I mean, they're taking cues about like, because the Pixel 5 was heralded as like having some of the best battery life on a phone right now.
And people that have the phone love the phone. Yeah. So they know that they got certain things right about that phone. Even though it's a mid-range phone, they nailed the basics. And so they know they have to nail the basics on the next phone.
Yeah. No, for sure.
The same way.
And so big battery, like given. And then camera system. I mean, that...
Yeah, clearly they're upgrading the sensor this year.
Yeah. So Prosser's images that he rendered showed the triple camera setup, but then I can't remember his name. There was another leaker that he leaked another set of images, and they were supposedly on leaks. That he supposedly got a hold of the CAD files, and so
he released the CAD files.
Yeah, and he showed
Prosser got the same ones or something like that. But
and that's so I was texting Jaydan earlier. It's so funny the beef that leakers have with each other, and they're always trying to like push the other one down. And Prosser was so like, oh, well, this leak, and he has it, and it looks a little different than mine, but his track record hasn't. And he starts going over like details of his track record or whatever. But the thing that's different about on leaks rendering is that it looks like there might be an anamorphic lens on the Pixel Pro.
Anamorphic or periscope?
It looks like an anamorphic because it's square, and so something that would be completely focused around video.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be super cool.
Yeah, that would be sweet.
Yeah,
because the more video I take on my Pixel 5, the more I'm like, this has actually gotten really good.
Yeah, the rumors are that they are going to focus a lot more on video this generation, which they need to. I mean, the 12 Pros from last year, they are very focused on video.
Yeah.
Almost their whole feature set was around video.
Yeah.
That they added Dolby Vision and all of that. So,
which arguably, if you can get your video down really well, then photography is just going to be right behind it. Like
and photography too now on phones is so good for the size of the sensor. You know, like, are they really that much better between phones? Like, or are they just tastes of phones, like of looks that you like? So
no, for sure. It's some pretty exciting stuff. That on leaks, their render looked almost exactly like
looked almost exactly. The hump was a little bit shorter, so it didn't stick out quite as much.
I hope that's correct.
I hope that's correct too.
Yeah.
They had a chin though. Did you see that? That there was a chin at the bottom of the on leaks render. And there's a possibility that chin won't actually be there, but in the CAD render, it's just like the screen wasn't fully laid out in the CAD.
Yeah. Which, I mean, Prosser said that he was like, no, I can confirm that that's not going to be accurate, which is like, whatever,
I mean, if he saw the actual phone, there's a good chance that there's not going to be a chin.
I don't think there's going to be a chin. Not
with what they did with the Pixel 5.
Yeah. There's like symmetrical. Everyone talked about how amazing the symmetrical bezels were. Why would you ignore that?
They did a lot of work to make that symmetrical bezel.
Yeah, I really don't think that they're. I think that the on leaks just missed that a little bit.
Sure.
But it's all setting up to look really cool. Right now, my question is whether or not I should try to sell my Pixel 5 now, just because I know I'm going to get the Pixel 6, and so I can get a better price for what I sell it for now.
6 or 6 Pro?
That's a good question. I love the smaller phone. There is sometimes that I wish that I had a bigger phone. But I feel like the times that I wish I had a bigger phone or the times that I appreciate that I have a smaller phone are outweighed. No, wait. I'm messing this up in my head. We're recording this early in the morning rather than later in the evening. So I mean that's why I'm drinking my coffee right now.
Still on the first cup of coffee.
No. So the times that I appreciate having a smaller phone are definitely more than the times that I'm like, oh, I wish I had a bigger screen.
Yeah.
The times that I wish I had a bigger screen are when I'm playing a big game on my phone.
For sure. I appreciate the smaller phone. I mean, using the 4A right now, I wouldn't really want to go to a bigger phone.
Yeah.
Just because it's so comfortable.
Yeah.
With the smaller phone, but I would hate to give up the extra camera features.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that I'm struggling with right now, is that if there's going to be like an anamorphic lens and 5,000 milliamp hour battery.
Yeah, you'd like hardly ever have to charge your phone. That's like 2.5 day battery.
Yeah. It's so there's a chance that I'll do that. There was actually, and I had this could be a good segue into the next segment, but I've been seeing more and more videos coming out of people being like, this phone from 2020 or 2019 is a great deal now, and it's amazing. And I saw one pop up today of the OnePlus 7 Pro, and for a second it made me like, oh, I did miss that screen. Like, that screen is the one thing that I miss about it. No, I'm not going back. I mean, my mom has it. I'm not taking it away from my mama. Like, that's why I sold it to my mom, is because I was like, now I'm not going back.
Yeah.
The bridge has been burned. But that screen, having a bigger screen,
it is nice.
Sometimes it is nice just to have.
I feel like high refresh rate too, you notice more on the larger screen.
Yeah.
Like on the smaller screen phones with high refresh rates, it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it, but
yeah,
on a larger screen, there's more movement.
For sure.
Right? So you can actually see that motion a little bit easier.
Yeah. And I mean, the OnePlus, I would say though, the OnePlus 7 Pro's screen, to me personally, is better than the Pixel 5's. It just looks better in just about every way. But I do think that it's interesting that more of these videos are coming out, because I think it's really because Google is getting better at pushing their latest rollouts quicker and to more phones. And so you have these phones that were from yesteryear, like there was a video of the Pixel 4 and how it's a screaming deal right now.
Yeah.
Because it's like you can buy one right now for $225 pretty easily.
Yeah.
You can find them
it's
for $225.
It's a good phone. I mean, if you have a wireless charger around you most of the time, that's a perfectly good phone.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be faster than the Pixel 4A. Like, it's got a better screen.
The face unlock, now that more people are not wearing masks as much.
Yeah.
Face unlock's perfect.
So it really calls this perspective into focus that Google is doing a better job of getting their updates out to phones so that old phones are better for longer.
Yeah. Well, and Whitechapel is going to be a huge deal around that. Like it's going to mean that they could potentially support that phone for 6 years. Yeah. Yeah. Same as Apple.
Which they're going to so if Google stays true to like do no evil, they would push a phone that could last for 6 years.
Well, yes. I mean, they even said in the last like little virtual keynote, the October event for the Pixel 5, they said that they're purposefully bringing software features to old phones so people don't feel like they have to buy a new phone. Yeah. I mean, that's great. They said, they were like, it's better for the environment to not buy a new phone if you don't need a new phone. Which that's like their underlying message that they had.
Yeah. And so, a little side tangent here. Did Google say that they've been carbon neutral since like 2013?
They were the first of the major companies like Microsoft, Google, Apple. They were the first to be carbon neutral.
I think it's very funny that Apple is still like, we're on track to be carbon neutral by X date.
The hardest part for them is their stores.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Boise Town Square, we have an Apple store. They can't guarantee where that electricity is coming from to run that store. So they can buy like offset energy from renewable resources, but I mean, it's kind of a wash.
No, for sure.
It is tough when you have like brick and mortar stores in your branding, in your company.
Probably a good thing why Google doesn't have any brick and mortar stores, but
segue.
Take it over.
Well, I guess it's good timing. It's a good segue. Google is opening a retail store in New York City, and it looks really, really cool. It looks like they're really going to put their best foot forward on it. It's not going to be a pop-up shop. Yeah. It's going to be a permanently open retail store for Google products.
Yeah. Google's on track. This is their year. If they really wanted it to be, this could be their year. Honestly. And
I agree.
I mean, if you'd have to drag me to New York, I've never really had a...
I've been to New York.
You liked it?
I would go back for the Google store.
And that's it.
And that's about it. But my wife loved New York.
Oh, okay.
So I know that I'll end up there again.
Yeah. My wife went out there to visit her sister whenever her sister used to live out there for college. And she said it was like everything that you saw in the movies. It really felt like a sardine pack, like where you're all stuck.
Super, like everything's packed. The subway is very claustrophobic. Yeah. And people are generally not super happy there. I mean, some people are really nice. I did come across like some really nice people, like Hoda.
Hoda. Oh, okay.
We met Hoda when we were in New York.
I didn't know that. Nice.
And she was super nice, like just genuinely happy. She asked us like where we're from and stuff, and it was really cool. She was just out on the streets of New York, and we said hi.
You know, it goes to show that you can have different experiences between people. Because Morgan said that she literally saw someone defecating in the subway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, New York it's kind of filthy.
It really is.
When you come from a place like Idaho, where there's so much room, it's clean, and it is tough. I mean, to go into a city like that. But I was okay with visiting. I wouldn't want to live there, but
never. But I think Google is really on track to do some cool things. In fact, I mean, Jaydan and I have both downloaded the open beta of Android 12, and might be a good opportunity for us to kind of talk about our individual experiences. Yeah. But I personally have had a great experience with it so far. It's been super stable.
Me too.
I've never experienced a beta this stable before. I've experienced one crash, and it wasn't a system crash. It was just like
an app got stuck. Yeah, that's what mine was too. I've only had one.
Yeah, one, and we've been using it for 2 weeks now. And just the animations are so consistent across the entire platform.
It's crazy too, because this is the first public beta release, and usually that's the one that you're like, I should probably wait until the next one.
Yeah.
And this one's perfectly stable.
And I mean, I had some PTSD with, coming from OnePlus 7's beta. That was awful. Yeah. That could have been its own segment of our show for the duration of me going through that beta. It was just awful. But I had done my research and I had looked, and everyone was like, this is crazy. Yeah. Like
against my better judgment, I just went for it.
Yeah.
I was like, I can reset my phone. It's not that big of a deal.
Luckily, I mean, we're tech enthusiasts, so there's not very many problems that we could run into that we wouldn't know how to fix. But super cool. Love the aesthetics.
Yeah, I didn't know how I'd feel about everything being huge.
Yeah.
Like literally all the buttons being gigantic. But I actually really like it.
Yeah.
After being with it for a couple weeks. So
well, it kind of like, why have small buttons, right? It's especially because it's just like so much easier to access all your
especially
stuff.
For the quick settings, like getting to the flashlight, it's that much easier to know. That's the giant flashlight button that you're looking for in the dark, and you're trying to get a flashlight.
It's so funny that you mentioned that too, because that's the one thing that I've noticed with the big buttons. That's what I was thinking when I was telling you, is that I set my flashlight to be like one of the top ones.
For sure.
So easy to reach.
I mean, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are right there too. Just super easy to toggle and get to, which maybe they're taking a little bit of a rip out of Apple's textbook, I guess.
Sure.
Because Apple has big buttons in their control center.
Yeah.
And they have for a while now. I hate the way that you get to control center on an iPhone. I like Google's method of it just being at the top of the notification tray better. But I do like that they're adopting I mean, this has been true of Android and iOS for a long time. They're just adopting each other's best pieces or the pieces that they like individually.
And that's why we love innovation. That's why we love competition. That's why we should allow competition, is because it just makes both companies better. Mm-hmm. And, it brings the price down on things. I mean, Apple, we've said this before, Apple never would have introduced a $400 phone. Yeah. If Google didn't exist. Yeah. 100%.
So
I agree completely. And like Apple is finding themselves in a situation where they're burning bridges with partners that they've had for a long time, which leads us segue. Mm-hmm. I almost feel like we shouldn't use Segway anymore just because now we did confirm that the owner of Segway died on a Segway.
Yeah, it's really...
He fell off a cliff.
It's terrible.
On his Segway. That's horrible. It's sad.
Rest in peace, man.
Yeah, rest in peace. You know what? We'll just keep saying Segway in honor of him. And anytime that we say Segway now, we'll just be like,
yeah,
love you, man. Thank you. But the Apple trial with Epic has come to its close. So it's now done. And that last day was particularly rough for Apple.
So the trial was super boring. I mean, like, if you listen to the Verge cast, which is their podcast, where they cover like everything. Yeah. But they were particularly over the last couple of weeks, they were covering the trial, and they were like, "This is a boring trial. Like, there's not a lot of fanfare. There's not a lot going on. There's just a lot of Epic throwing out facts. Yeah. And you start to understand why they were doing that. It's really smart because if you follow these trials, these big tech trials, they go to retrial for years and years. So like this trial that just has started, we won't get a final decision on any of this probably for, I would say, 5 years. Yeah. At least. Yeah. There won't be like any final, this trial is completely closed from what started in 2021.
Oh yeah. I think we'll see 5 years. I think we'll see ramifications of this trial within probably 6 months. I think we'll start seeing some
I mean, the judge will have a decision for sure. Yeah. But Apple, if it doesn't go in Apple's favor, they're going to ask for a retrial. Yeah. And then if it doesn't go in Epic's favor, they're going to ask for a retrial. It's just going to go back and forth.
Which we were talking before we started the podcast, that really Apple knows that they're in the wrong. I really do. I really do think that they know that they're in the wrong, but it's not profitable for them to do what's right. And so they're just going to keep, so they're just going to keep buying their time. Yeah, that's all they're going to do.
This is, if you listen to Tim Cook and the way he answered some of these things, they truly believe that they're...
Just say it how it is, man. Preach the gospel.
They truly believe that they own your iPhone that you bought. Yeah. Every iPhone they've ever sold, they own. Yeah. And then that they can dictate your experience on that phone, and whoever wants to sell to you has to go through them and pay them a tax to sell to you on your iPhone.
Yeah. Which, for those of you that don't know exactly what's going on with the whole Epic and Apple thing.
Yeah, we should do a quick recap.
So Epic, and they were pretty clever with the way they did everything. So Epic owns Fortnite amongst a ton of other games.
Possibly the biggest game on the planet now.
Well, they even are trying to rebrand that it's not a game.
It's a metaverse.
Social, metaverse. A social metaverse. Because people can experience concerts together.
The Travis Scott concert they did in the game, crazy. That's not a game. Yeah. It's a
concert.
Yeah, it's a concert.
So huge, massive, just money Goliath Epic is. And they made a workaround on their store to be able to purchase V-Bucks without having to go through Apple.
Yep. Without paying the 30% tax to Apple.
Which a 30% tax on something digital is archaic. It doesn't make any sense. No. To ask someone to pay you 30%. That was the 30% was rolled over from physical cost of companies, not digital. Yeah. Which, I mean, some companies like Sony are getting in trouble right now for charging $60 for a brand new game that's digital, why it doesn't make sense.
It's also ironic too, because Apple actually doesn't charge their tax on physical goods sold through apps on the App Store.
Yeah, which is stuff that
they don't, because and they said because they can't guarantee that person got the physical good. So that's why they're like, okay, well, we won't charge our tax.
Yeah.
So think of it like DoorDash, Grubhub, like all that stuff. Those are physical goods that are being delivered and charged for through an app, but Apple doesn't charge the tax on those.
So Epic did this thing where they made the loophole with their store. Apple was very quick to catch on, and they removed Fortnite from the App Store.
And then Epic hit him with a lawsuit.
Epic was so quick with it that you know that this is what they planned.
It was on purpose.
They planned this.
Yeah.
Because they hit them with the lawsuit immediately. I think it was within the day.
Yeah. They had the lawyers already ready for the official lawsuit. Like, they did this as a planned, the whole thing, start to finish.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's smart.
Yeah. No, it is. And, I mean, Apple probably knew, too, to an extent. But, really, this whole trial, it's not just Apple versus Epic.
No.
It's Microsoft. It's
Netflix.
Epic. It's Netflix. It's Spotify. It's what's that one game streaming service too? There's another game streaming service that's on Apple. They testified as well. I can't remember their name. It's like a black, really minimalistic like look, but
yeah.
It's all of them versus Apple. And so this is where Tile that one testified. Was sad. Like, I watched her testifying about it, and it was sad. You could tell that she was like, Apple, we've been a partner of Apple. Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't think Tile's going to be around for, like, in the way that they are.
No, because sadly, people are going to want Google to come out with their own Apple tag competitor. They won't want Tiles.
Which, the way Google normally does things is they just buy you out.
They have a really good partnership with Tile right now. Yeah. With the Google Assistant. But there is a chance, I mean, they could end up having to buy Tile.
Yeah. And so, really, this whole trial, just you have to hand it to Epic. I really felt like they did their homework, and they really had some good lawyers.
Yeah. The lawyers, I don't remember what trial they did, but the lawyers that they hired have won some really, really big lawsuits. That's just what I heard from The Verge and their coverage, which actually the main editor-in-chief at The Verge, he's an ex-lawyer. Yeah. So he knows about all this stuff. He covers it really well. So if you want to go more in depth on the trial, definitely check out The Verge's coverage. Yeah. They've been on top of it. So,
and it's just, I really don't think that the outcome is going to be completely favorable for Apple. I think it'll be more favorable for Epic and their
I agree.
aficionados.
Especially because the last day, it was a boring trial, which tangent, we were on a huge tangent there. But yeah, it was a boring trial until the last day when the judge grilled Tim Cook. Yeah. Everyone was in shock pretty much. Yeah. I mean, Epic asked a couple questions to Tim, and they weren't very deep or controversial questions. Yeah. And then the judge just went off on Tim, and you could tell that he was on his heels the whole time. Yeah. He was answering the way that a CEO should. I mean, he's obviously really, really good at his job. Yeah, but
he's eloquent.
But he clearly was not ready for the judge to just grill into him. And
which if the judge is doing that.
Yeah. You know that the judge looked at all of the facts and is like, I'm not going to let you off that easy. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I mean, some of the answers that Tim gave were just flat out. He says, that's the way we do it. Yeah.
And it's just that, to me, again, that just shows that they know that they're eventually going to lose this. Because it's not the right way to do competition. But they're just going to buy their time as long as they can. I agree with you. I think that the verdict is going to come against Apple, and then they're just going to apply for a retrial.
It's going to be back and forth, which the Google versus Oracle trial went on for 10 years. Yeah. this could be the same thing.
Yeah.
There will be consequences though earlier than that 10 years.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, we might not hear the end of this until 2030.
Yeah. So. Which I encourage you, if this is all kind of like interesting to you and you want to know more, The Verge did a really good recap video. It's only 15 minutes long rather than having to listen to like 2 hour long podcasts.
I mean, they did a 2-part podcast, so
yeah, but
you'd be listening for a while.
There's a good recap on Verge's channel, so go check that out because it was really interesting, and it really kind of shines some light on Apple's philosophy of, and I like how you put it, you don't actually own your Apple product.
No. Apple still believes they own it. Yeah. You leased it.
You're leasing it. So you can't do anything to it. It's kind of like renting a house. You might want to change the paint on your walls, but you can't do that unless you ask
if the landlord says no, they said no. You're not going to do it. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's so that's looking rough for them. I do want to, I forgot something about Google I/O that I feel like we should touch on too, is like some of the shopping stuff that they're doing, like with Shopify and the partnerships that they're doing with them, is another thing that they're doing. Google is with their shopping products, just like the ability to shop on their
YouTube
platform. Yeah, YouTube.
I'm super excited for the YouTube shopping integration.
Yeah,
because I don't like going to Amazon from like every like review or whatever on a YouTube video, because I don't want to give Amazon the money.
Yeah, you would rather give it to Alphabet.
Yeah, that or Shopify. Like I would rather support Shopify over Amazon. So
yeah, it's really cool how they're implementing that stuff, and just the framework that they're doing to make it easier for marketing agencies and shops to be able to get their stuff listed in front of people, especially on Google shopping page, is really cool.
Yeah.
I never used Google's shopping tab
at the top.
Google search. Yeah. Until recently.
It got better just in the last, I would say probably year or 6 months or so. It's been a better interface. It used to like just be a link to the website's page for that product.
Yeah.
But now it's like integrated.
Now
cool.
It's like you can do some shopping without ever leaving really that section, without leaving Google's pages. So there's a lot of
But it's
really
still
cool
a
stuff
Shopify.
there.
Usually it's usually a Shopify account that you're buying from.
But again, it's Google making partnerships with these companies that are pretty big. I mean, Shopify is a pretty big fish.
Pretty big.
You know?
Shopify's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's super interesting to see Google say that we don't want to make another Amazon. We want to help Shopify make another Amazon. Yeah. That's good. Competition's good.
Yeah. And Google knows this, and I feel like they're just capitalizing on all the controversy around Apple, and they're being like, oh, we'll play nice with Samsung. Oh, we'll play nice with Shopify. Like they're really showing that they're like, no, we're for competition. Because I really feel like it's a good way to do it, because you build up these partnerships. I mean, you know, corporate greed eventually comes into play, but they're much less likely to throw a lawsuit at you.
Yeah, because Google's not the one making the money.
Yeah.
Shopify is the one making the money. You know, ultimately Google just takes maybe a small percentage off of that eyeball that they helped someone get, but
yeah. No, it's true.
Yeah.
There is honestly so much on Google I/O that we couldn't even cover in this, like what's that one called? Project Starline.
Super cool. We can skim over it pretty quick. It's probably my favorite one, even though the like language stuff is really cool. But Project Starline, go watch the video for it. It's super, super cool. In essence, it's like a holographic 3D video call that they were able to figure out. Yeah. It's like a real-time Zoom meeting or Google Meet video call, but it's in 3D. Like you are looking at a 3-dimensional hologram of the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
So when I first watched it, it looked so good that I didn't understand what it was.
Yeah. Like the first time you watch it, you feel like
they're doing
people
a video
are just
call
in the same room.
Oh yeah. Or that. Just like, oh, they're just hanging out. Like what? To me, I was just like, oh, it's just a video call. But then to see that
the parallax,
they'd move and the parallax, and that you could see that they were a 3D representation of that person. The one that really threw me for a loop was the gal that was holding her baby. That it's able to understand that it's two people. I mean, go check that out. It
creates a 3D map of whatever's in front of the camera, and then in real time translates that back over to a 3-dimensional display.
Yeah. Project Starline.
Cool.
Just go watch it. It's not available to the public yet. It was definitely a proof of concept.
They're using it in Google offices, which is cool. So like Google employees could talk to another Google employee in some other country on the other side of the world in real time in a meeting.
It's
cool.
I mean, again, just like stuff that's really going to impact your life.
Yeah.
In some pretty cool, surprising ways.
And you can imagine that's just like a booth that you pay to go into if you want to have like a face-to-face meeting with someone.
Yeah.
So,
well, and then like you think about like how many corporate offices are going to want to bring that into their infrastructure and how they do things, especially with so many more jobs becoming remote. Yep. Like it makes so much sense. They're positioning themselves. Like you can really see that Google is positioning themselves in a great way.
And they want to be helpful.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily want to sell billions and billions of devices.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't want to sell them my soul, but like no. I'm inclined to believe them a bit. Yeah. Like that they're really doing some really cool things. So definitely go check that out. They had some
medical stuff too, which we don't have time to talk about. But I mean, they had a lot of medical innovations.
Well, no, we should talk about the mammography thing though.
Yeah,
that's nuts. Like, so again, this whole Google I/O thing was really just like a showcase of their machine learning and how they just destroy their competition with machine learning.
They're years ahead.
Like the gap that was Siri and Google Assistant is just destroyed now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just on another level. So their machine learning is really, really, really good. And they're starting to implement it and partner with different medical companies. And right now, with mammographies and like breast cancer and everything like that, it's a scary experience to go in, especially if it's hereditary, because it is something that like passes through generations. And to go in, get your mammography, and then have to wait sometimes weeks.
I think they said like the average is 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because there's just so many tests that the experts have to look through.
Yeah. And the experts have to sit there and they have to look through the x-rays and they know what to look for, but it's a trained person. And to have to go through all of those is insane. So Google uses their machine learning to learn what to look for in these x-rays, these mammography exams. And they're able to produce results, I think, was it at the same appointment?
Yeah, it's almost instant.
Yeah.
I think they said maybe it was like an hour or something like that after, like, that it gets fed through and everything. But yeah, I mean, like, to be able to have that result instantly, and then they said they're using it for the first round review. So normally if they see something that they're like, I don't know, maybe we should have another test done, they're using that machine learning portion to do that.
Yeah.
So it's catching the first round and saying, hey, something looks weird about this one. So then they can instantly get that person, not 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Instantly get that person in for another round of tests.
Yeah.
Which is a huge deal. I
mean, that's real.
That can be life and death for some people.
That's real world changes there. And really cool to see. And the other thing about machine learning is it only gets better.
Like, this is just the start of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if it takes, a couple days or whatever to get your results now with this machine learning, it'll be just quicker and quicker the more information that you feed it. And that's what's, I mean, joking aside with, the rise of the robot apocalypse and, we won't be able to whatever, to make this thing smarter, to make machine learning smarter.
Yeah. That's a real world impact.
Yeah, it really is.
Machine learning.
I thought it was super cool.
Yeah, it is super cool.
And finally, we're starting to see Google produce some really good-looking videos. Like those, the videos revolving all of this.
Did you know the whole thing was actually live?
Really? Oh, that's crazy.
Because I listened to MKBHD's, I think it was MKBHD, but his podcast, Waveform, and he asked that he did an interview with Sundar Pichai.
Yeah.
And he asked him, he said, was that thing like really live? Was IO really live? And he said, yeah, it was really live. And I was nervous the whole time.
Honestly, like, that's crazy. I mean,
yeah, the whole thing is really live.
They're not as flashy, but I actually like that.
I liked the setting of IO. It was like just super chill, the big screen in the background.
Aside from them wearing masks outside.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Which is like, whatever. But
and they were in lawn chairs and socially distanced.
Yeah.
And you're like...
so much. But hey, whatever. Be safe and do what you want to do. But I was really impressed. I was super excited about all this stuff. Again, Verge has a recap video of it.
Yeah, they do a supercut.
Yeah.
They always do a supercut of these events, which is super cool.
Check it out. If you're in marketing, if you're in tech, and whatever, it's really honestly something that you want to look out for. Because Morgan said that all of her marketing buddies were like, I don't know what you're talking about. She's like, we need to start implementing this stuff now. Like some of these tools are available right now, and it's only going to make life better for our clients and get their numbers up. And so Morgan actually listens to our podcast now to keep up on stuff like that, because it really is making a difference. Awesome. And I could see how someone, especially like my wife, who likes tech but not that much, could appreciate a podcast like this, because we're putting together all of the stuff so you don't have to search it.
Shameful hours of time that we
spend
staying up to date on this stuff, you only have to spend 1 hour of time.
Exactly.
And we'll catch you up.
And really quick, I do want to say that Jayden, you have to talk about this.
I have to talk
you
about
have
it.
to talk about this.
I wasn't going to let us stop without talking about
you
it.
have to talk about this. You talk about it every episode. It's your Fuchsia segment.
Fuchsia is my favorite.
Take it away, man.
Fuchsia is in the wild. I mean, like, it is out there right now. There's no fireworks. There's no fanfare. Like, Google released Fuchsia on the first generation Nest Hub, which you and I actually have them.
Yep. I haven't noticed a difference. Have you?
I don't think it's updated yet.
Okay.
So they said this could take months on the rollout. They're being very, very, very careful.
Yeah.
Which they should be. For a full operating system change on a live device in the wild, they should take their time on the rollout.
Yeah.
But they are releasing Fuchsia on that device, which is, like we said, the first device would very likely be an Internet of Things device. Clearly, they want people to not notice it because they didn't do an announcement. They didn't actually do a blog post. It was someone on Twitter on the Fuchsia team sent out a tweet. That's it.
Oh, hey guys, it's available now.
And then the full news cycle's like, what?
Wait, what?
And then they confirmed it, like Google officially PR confirmed it, but they didn't do a blog post. Yeah. They didn't do any big fanfare or anything. It was just like, we're sending Fuchsia out on this device. We're going to take our time and hopefully no one notices.
All marketing. That's all marketing.
It is 100% on purpose.
It's like, look at how seamless this transition is going to be. They planned it so well. So the Nest Hub, that whole interface was built with Flutter, which we've talked about in previous episodes. The whole interface was built in Flutter because they knew they were going to swap out Cast OS, or the Cast platform, which is based on Linux. They were going to swap that out with Fuchsia. And Fuchsia uses Flutter natively. Yeah. 100%. So Flutter works on Fuchsia from the start. So they just can swap the operating system. No one will notice. Yeah. It'll look exactly the same. It'll hopefully behave exactly the same. Maybe be a little bit faster. Yeah. Because certain things are more efficient with Fuchsia. But the idea is they are releasing an operating system and they hope no one notices. Yep. It's going to be easier for developers to use. It's just, it's going to open up the ecosystem even more for people to be able to dink around with. No, this is a huge deal because we haven't had a new, truly new operating system. Chrome OS doesn't count because it's based on Linux.
we haven't had something that's built from the ground up in a long, long time. Like the 90s and 80s.
That paired with Whitechapel, like in everything that Google's pushing out, it's looking like it's going to be a pretty stellar year. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to call that a wrap. We don't want to eat up more of your day. So this episode should be releasing on Memorial Day. Mm-hmm. So happy Memorial Day. And we hope that you're enjoying your time with your families, and hopefully you're spending some time with your family. And hopefully, if everything goes well, which things in like with tech and audio and AV stuff never normally like works on the first go, but if it all works well, this will be up on YouTube as well. Mm-hmm. So it'll be our first video. I mean, hopefully one day my office will look a little bit more tech YouTuber-y, but whatever for now.
Have a backdrop.
Have a backdrop, except for these beautiful guitars. It's whatever, don't judge me.
And then an empty chair. Maybe you guys saw it move, saw a ghost or something.
Well, our host will have to sit right there anytime, or like we have
just like awkwardly far away with the wireless mic.
But this is fun. We hope that this gives us an opportunity to kind of interact with you guys even more. Let you get to know the faces behind the voices, and I'm excited about it. We're still having so much fun with this podcast. This is episode 11. Thank you guys for tuning in with us.
We'll keep plugging away.
Yep. Jayden, any
Fuchsia's been released.
Yay! We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Share this with a friend if you think that this could be beneficial for somebody, or just, I think we're two fun guys to listen to and hang out with, and we hope you feel the same way. So tune in next week, and we'll see you then.